So this is called as clustering because we do not have any known output. Okay, we do not have any known output. So this is called the clustering in unsupervised learning. And the last one thing for unsupervised learning, that is called dimensionality reduction. Most appropriate dimensionality reduction we will see about, that is called PCA, which is called as principal component analysis. That means we will have more than two or more than three dimensions, and how to reduce those dimensions, how, based on some features will be there, based on some contents will be there. So what will be our features, what will be our most appropriate features? By dimensionality reduction, or rather than LDA or PCA will be there, we will just recognize that yes, this feature is more important to us, this feature is not more important to us. So this type of things will be there for dimensionality reduction. And we can also use the dimensionality reduction into our big data. Mainly we will use for big data. Okay. Now the last thing is that the reinforcement learning. In the reinforcement learning, we will, this learning is called as a reward and punishment algorithm. One type of reward and punishment algorithm. Why? Because because in the reinforcement learning we will have some reward, we will have some punishment, and between those, within those punishments we will get some reward. That means in reinforcement learning, let me elaborate again. That means in the reinforcement learning there are two parts. One is labeled data set and another is unlabeled data set. And within, and to predict the unlabeled output, unlabeled data set, we will use our labeled data set. With the use of labeled data set we easily predict our unknown output. So this is called the reinforcement learning. You can see here that this is called as reward and punishment. In the mainly, the reinforcement learning mainly using two things, mainly use. One is called online gaming. That means there will be some reward and there will be some punishment. Okay. And another, the most appropriate thing is that for using the reinforcement learning, that is the self-driving car. You all know that what is self-driving car. It will just get the punishment. That means there will be red light, there will be something. If it crosses the red light, then in the next red light it will not cross. This type of things will be there. This is called a reward. And punishment will be there. What will be the punishment? Punishment will be the errors mainly. That means if it crosses the red light, then how to gain, then how to use that in the next red light it will not cross. This type of things will be there for reinforcement learning. So there are three types of learning. We all know about them. Now the next thing, that is called as machine learning workflow. This is most important thing. That is how to work a machine learning ways. First one is, you can see, first one is data collection, then data preparation, then choosing the learning algorithm, then training the model. After that, evaluate our model, and lastly, we will just predict our output. Let me elaborate all the things one by one. First one is data collection. When we will go, mainly data collection will have two parts. One is called as primary data collection, another is called as secondary data collection. Okay, when we will go for a field, when we'll go to a field and collect our data from the field, then it is called as a primary data collection. But when we will collect our data from some journals, from some papers, from some government organization, from some books, this type of things will be there, then it is called as a secondary data collection. So there are two types of data collection. After collecting the data, we will have to pre-process our data. So what is the data pre-processing? That means data preparation or data pre-processing will be there. Suppose in a data set we will there is a column of gender. One is male and another is female. Someone writes that M, capital M A L E. Someone writes capital M only and small a l e. So this is the male. Someone writes all the things are small. That is M A L E in the small manner. Someone writes only F. That means female. Denoted female. Someone writes capital F E M A L E. So this type of things will be there. And when we will collect our data, this is called our this is called our, what will this is called our mismatched data. Then we'll have to pre-process the data. That means one data should be there, one identical feature should be there, either capital M all for male or capital F all for female. Or we can also pre-process the things by 1 or 0 in a binary manner. That means 1 for female, 0 for male. There will be such thing. So this is called the data preparation. We'll have to prepare. We'll have to prepare some machine values will be there. Some data will be NaN, non-numeric values. Some features, some there will be some categorical features will be there. There will be categorical features like male and female. This type of things will be there. The missing values will be there. This type of things will be there. And we have to pre-process. We have to scale down the data. We have to pre-process the data. So this is the topic of data pre-processing or data preparation. After preparing the data, we will have to choose the learning algorithm. What is the learning algorithm? I have just told you that there are many learning algorithms like regression. Either it will be a regression problem statement, or it will be a clustering problem statement, or other than it will be a classification problem statement. And when we will recognize that okay, this is a regression problem statement, then we will have to go for which regression problem statement we will use. That means there are many regression types of problem, many classification problems will be there, many classification algorithms will be there, like SVM, support vector machine, like random forest, like decision tree will be there. So how to choose that? So that is called the choosing of a learning algorithm. After choosing the right algorithm, we will have to train the model by splitting 80% with the trained data, and rest the 20% we will have to test the test the algorithm. That means is it correct or not? The prediction will be correct or not? If it is correct, then how many percentages, how many accurate it is? What is the accuracy of the model? So this type of things will be there for training the model. And lastly, if we satisfies with our accuracy, that means if it is 85%, 87%, rather more near about 90%, then we'll satisfy, okay, this is our model, and we will just simply evaluate our model. And with that model, we will just predict our new output data, new data. We will give our new data, and based on that data, based on the algorithm, based on the features, it will just predict our output. So this is all the steps for a machine learning workflow. This is all the steps, and we will have to follow all the steps. No steps can be skipped. Okay, so this is the thing. Okay, so in this session we will discuss about how to predict a cricket match score. We know that in the mid of October 21, our T20 World Cup will begin. So we are really excited about that, and we will just want to predict that what will be our score based on our past data. Okay, so this is the current topic. We will just discuss about that. Okay, now you can see here from this picture, you can see there is a match between West Indies and England, and you can see Chris Gayle is on the striker, and you can see within the 4.3 overs the score is very huge, that is 66. That means 14.67 runs per over. And you can see here that the current rate is 733. This is quite huge, and this is not possible for any ODI match. We all know about that. And this picture clearly tells that how bad is taking the run rate, only this run rate, as a single factor to predict the output of the match score. This is very bad. Okay, so there will be many more features will be there. There will be many more extra features, extra key role will be there for to predict the output of the match. Like that, number of wickets left, number of balls left. Okay, who is the current batsman? Who is the current batsman that, and how, and what is its score in the last 5 overs? How many wickets fall down in last 5 overs? This type of things will be there. Is the pitch is batting pitch on a bowling pitch? So all these conditions will be there, and based on these all conditions, based on these features, we will want to predict our output. What will be the score after 50 overs. So this is the way. So we will use our data set after that, and you can see this type of things will be there to predict the score very much accurately. So let's check. Okay, now there is some algorithms we will talk about, that is called, first one is called the regression algorithm. You can see that in the regression problem statement rather than in the regression algorithm, there will be three types of regression statements. One is called simple linear regression, another is called multiple linear regression, and the last one is called polynomial regression. When we will discuss about simple linear regression, the equation would be y equal to b naught plus b1 x1. Okay, here you can see x1 is the independent variable. X1 is called as an independent variable, and based on these values we will just predict our value of y. We will just evaluate our value of y. So this y is called as a dependent variable, and b naught is called the intercept, and b1 is called as a coefficient. Okay, this is the simple linear regression, and you can see here in the right side of the screen, you can see this is called the simple linear regression. Here will be, here the blue dots will be our data. This is called the data, and they are all scattered, and we will just fit a line over the datas, over the points. This is called the OLS, ordinary least square method. And after after drawing this line, we will just want to predict this type of things. Suppose we want, this is the x-axis and this is the y-axis. If we want to predict based on this x value, the y value would be this, but you can see the y value should be in this particular. So this type of things is called as an error, and we'll have to minimize this error or this distance between the line and the point. So this is our goal, or this is our objective, to minimize the error for simple linear regression or for multiple linear regression. In the multiple linear regression, you can see the multiple variables will be there. The multiple independent variables will be there. So the equation will be y equal to b naught plus b1 x1 plus b2 x2 plus up to bn xn. Here x1, x2 and xn is called the independent variables. This is also called as the independent features. That means there is, if we can relate this with our example, with our match, that means there will be this means that, suppose this is called the how many overs left to finish the match, how many wickets have drawn in the last 5 overs, what will be the score of current striker batsman. So this type of features will be there, and we, based on these features, we will just predict the output. And you can see, so you can see here that n dimensions will be there, n variables will be there, so n dimensions will be there, and we can clearly visualize only 3D diagram, up to 3D diagram. More than 3D diagram we cannot visualize. So we will, so you can see in the multiple linear regression, if the features number will be less equal to 3, then the diagram will be this. But if the features will be more than 3, then we cannot visualize in our graph in the multiple linear regression, because after 3D we cannot visualize the 4D. And the last one thing is that the polynomial regression, this is the same type of regression based on the multiple linear regression. There will be only one variables will be, independent variables will be there. Okay, so this is the simple linear regression, multiple linear regression, and the last one thing is that polynomial linear regression. Now we will do another algorithm, that is called decision tree. This is the decision tree, and another algorithm, that is the random forest. These two algorithm is more preferable to all of our data scientists. Let's see why we will always prefer the decision tree and random forest. In the decision tree, we will have some decision. Based on the decision, we will put our output. We will segregate our output. You can see here, suppose you are going to attend an interview, and the interviewer asks you some questions, and based on those questions, you will just segregate that if you take the job, yes or no. So this is called the decision tree. This is called the root node. This node is called the root node, and this is called the leaf node. So let's check with this example that how the decision tree works. Suppose the interviewer asks the HR team or interviewer offered you a salary between 50,000 to 80,000. Now, if you agree with the salary, if you agree with the salary, okay, that means okay that my salary will be between 50,000 and 80,000. It's fine. Then we will, if this is the our intention will be yes, then we will check another condition, that is office is near to home or not. Otherwise, if the salary is not satisfied to us, then we will just simply decline the offer. Then we will check that okay, office is near to home, yes or no. If it is yes, then we will check another condition, that is called they provide, would they, do they provide the cab facility, yes or no. If they provide the cab facility, you will accept the offer, otherwise you decline the offer. So this looks like a tree. This is one branch, and based on this branch there will be another branch. So this is called the decision tree. Why decision? Because based on these conditions, we will have we will go for a decision, that is called yes or no. So that's why it is called a decision. And as it looks like a tree, so this is called the decision tree. Okay, so this is the decision tree algorithm, and that's how it works, decision tree. And the next thing is the random forest. Random forest is quietly similar to the decision tree. You can see here is tree 1, tree 2, and up to tree 600. There is a simple sample input will be there. And you can see this tree 1, that means what is tree 1? Tree 1 is the decision tree. So there is the decision tree, and this is the decision tree 2, and this is the decision tree 600. Based on this decision tree, it will predict an output, that is prediction 1, prediction 2, and up to prediction 600. And based on these predictions, we will average all the predictions, and we will get a one prediction. That means suppose if there is a binary problem statements will be there, suppose 0 or 1. If it predicts 1, if it predicts 1, and most of the cases it predicts the value of 1, then we will just average the prediction. That means we will just average the prediction. If it is near tends to 0, we can also, rather than we can also taking the average, we can also predict the majority of the votes. That means majority of 1 or majority of 0. If this is majority of 0, we will take the 0, otherwise we will take the 1. Or we can take also the average. That means if it is tends to 1, we will take the value of 1, otherwise we will take the value 0. So this is called the random forest. So the random forest is based on many decision trees. So this is the random forest. And after choosing the algorithm, after expecting our algorithm, then if suppose there is a accuracy of 70%, and we want to increase the accuracy. So that's why there is a part that is called model validation, and we will use our algorithm that is called k-fold cross validation. You can see this is the all the data we have, and as we have told earlier, that is 80% of training data and 20% of the test data, or other than it will be 75%, 25% will be there. And we will just separate with our some folds will be there, that is fold 1, fold 2, fold 3, fold 4, and fold 5 will be there. And based on these folds, first one is this is we will take this fold 1 as a test data, and we will take this fold 2, 3, 4, and 5 as a training data. Based on this training data, we will predict our fold 1 data. This is, and outputs will be the split one, suppose. And in the split 2, we will have fold 1, fold 2, fold 3, fold 4, and fold 5. And this data is, and we will take this fold 2 data as our test data. And based on these folds, we will just predict our next fold, that is called fold 2. Similarly for fold 3, similarly for fold 4, and similarly for fold 5. You can see here all the data can be trained and tested as well. So that's why we always prefer our model validation, that is called our k-fold cross validation. So this is the algorithm for test data. And after getting some output, suppose this is output 1, this is output 2, this is output 3, and this is output 4, and this is output 5. We can take it as a majority vote, we can take it as the average of the output. This is in our hand. There is no hard and fast rule that we have to take the average, we will have to take the majority. Anything we can do. And after that, we will just predict our new test data or new data. We'll just predict. And you can see that the model accuracy will be far better than our previous. So that's why k-fold cross validation is more important. Okay, so let's predict and one day match cricket score. And to predict this, we will have to use the Jupyter notebook for Python Anaconda. So, so let us go for Jupyter notebook. Yes, you can see ODI score prediction using machine learning. So first of all, we will import our library. This is called library, that is NumPy, Pandas, Matplotlib, and Seaborn. So that's why we have written import NumPy as NP, import Pandas as PD, from Matplotlib. This is our module. So that's why we have given that from Matplotlib import PyPlot as PLT and import Seaborn as SNS. Here you can see NPPD. That means when we will use our NumPy library, we do not use the letter NumPy. Rather than we will just shortly use the library as NP. Then we will have to import this all the libraries. Now we will have to import the dataset. That is so that with the help of Pandas library, so that we have written that PD. So you can see here that pd.readcsv. There is a function of Pandas that is called readcsv function. And within this readcsv function, we will just put our path name. And last one is our odi.csv data file. So this is our data file. You can see here that data file looks like this type of data file will be there. Okay, let me elaborate one by one. So we have written the odi.csv and lastly dataset. We will store it in dataset variable. So we will just call the dataset. So this is our dataset. This is the match ID. This is the date of the match. This is venue of the match. This is the batting team, that is England. This type of batting teams will be there. Bowling teams will be there. That means the match between this batting team and bowling team. And the batsman from the first over to the last over, all the things will be given in the batsman column. And for bowler column, all the bowlers will be given who had bowled in this match. Runs per ball will be there, and wickets per ball will be there. Overs, that means 0.1 over, that means first ball. 0.2 over, that means second ball, third ball, fourth ball, fifth ball, like that. Runs last 5, that means run in the last 5 overs, and wickets in the last 5 overs. The striker score and the non-striker score per ball, and based on these all the features, we will have to predict the total score. So you can see here that we have the data for 3,50,899 rows and 15 columns will be there. That means this is a huge data, and based on this data, we will have to predict our score. Now first of all, we will do some statistical analysis. So dataset.info. Info returns us many of the descriptive statistics. That means there will be mean, median, mode. Okay, there will be mean, median. There will be count value or not non-count value. That means there will be null values or non-null values. That means info will give us. So you can see here match ID, date, venue, all the things contains the non-null value. That means no missing values will be there, and all the data types will be there. That means some integers, object, and float will be there. That means over will be float. Yes, over will be obviously float. So all the non-null values will be here. Now the describe function will give us the statistics, that is descriptive statistics, that is mean, median, mode, and you can see the count, mean, standard deviation, minimum, 25% quartile, 50%, 75% quartile, and the maximum value. All the things will be there, all the numeric values will be there, that is match ID, this type of match ID. That is no need to write here. We do not use our match ID. We can calculate our run. The mean of run 114. That means average run will be 114. Similarly, the minimum run will be 0 and maximum run will be 444. And for wickets, there will be minimum wicket or average wicket will be 2, or rather than 2.9, that means 3. And the standard deviation will be there. 25% quartile will be 1. And for 75% quartile, that means above the 75%, the wicket should be 4. And some matches, the wickets are fall down, that is maximum wicket, all the wickets, that means 10. Similarly for overs, similarly for runs in the last 5 overs, and similarly for wickets that have drawn, that have fall down in last 5 overs. Similarly for striker score, non-striker score, and total score. You can see the total score will be, sometimes the total score will be 444 in the data. So this type of things will be there. And the mean total score, that means in a match the average score is 255 or rather than 256. So the mean total score will be 255. So this type of things we can know from the descriptive statistics. That is our describe function, with the use of describe function in Python. Now we can also calculate the correlation between all the numeric values, that is the match ID, runs, wickets, over in the, this is called also the symmetrical matrix. So to use the correlation, we will have to use the function that is called dot core function. So dataset dot core gives us the correlation between the features, between the numerical features. You can see if the wickets is falling down very rapidly, then the runs will be that then the runs will do not build up, that much. So you can see the wickets and run is a correlation is 0.5, and we know that correlation always ranges between 0 to 1, sorry, -1 to minus 1 to +1. Okay, the correlation is between -1 to +1. You can also see the runs in last 5 overs and the wickets in last 5 overs is negatively correlated. That means if the runs is going rapidly huge in the last 5 overs, then the wickets do not fall. So that's why they are negatively correlated. And if the positive correlation happens, that means one variable if one variable increases, then the other variable also increases. So this is the positive correlation, and the negative correlation is that if this variable increases, then obviously this variable decreases. This is obvious. So this is the thing, this all the things we can get from our core function, that is our correlation dataset dot core function. We can also check our histogram. Here you can see this is the x-axis, this is the y-axis, and this is the density function. We know about from stats that histogram is the in the left hand side, or in the y-axis our there will be our density functions will be there. And you can see based on the runs in last 5 overs, this from this data, based on this run in the last 5 overs, based on this runs 5 over, we have plot the histogram. This is the histogram, and this is one type of normal curve, you can see. And you can see from the picture, that from the diagram you can see the most of the cases the runs in last 5 over, in between most of the cases the run is 20. Sometimes the runs is going to be 40 to 60, but sometimes going to be 0 also. So majority of the things that is called 20, between run is 20, the peak is in 20. So the last runs in last 5 overs, that is 20. We can also plot an histogram on the basis of total runs. You can see the total runs in the most of the matches. We have already known that the mean of the or average of the total run, that is 255. We have already seen, and you can also see from the diagram that the total run in the most of the matches, that is in the between this type of this in between this intervals, that is 200 and 300, 200 and 300, between this interval 255 is the best. So 255 is the average score in all the matches. We can also plot the wickets in last 5 overs, And with the use of SNS function, that means Seaborn function, we can also plot this wickets in last 5 over. Here you can see SNS dot disk plot. Within the use of with the use of disk plot, we can also use the this type of plots will be there. And this, and you can see this is a non-normal curve. This is just a simply curve. So, and you can see for this histogram we will use our function that is also the disk plot. Okay, SNS dot disk plot, and for this disk plot, this is a non-normal curve. And you can see from the diagram that the last wickets in the last 5 overs have been, most of the matches have been, it is zero, because the for zeroth value, the thing is very high. The peak is very high. So most of the matches, the value will be 0 wicket, and some matches will be 1 wicket, some matches will be 2 wickets, some matches will be 7 wickets will be there, but that is very 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 rare. And with the help of line plot, we can also see the line plots of the diagram, that is wickets in last 5 over and the runs in last 5 overs. We will plot the runs in last 5 over in our y-axis, and in the x-axis wickets in last 5 overs. From this diagram, you can see this type of confidence interval will be there. This is called the confidence interval. If the wickets in last 5 overs, if the more than 6 wickets, but the runs will be huge. This is obvious. Runs can be huge, and run can also be very rapidly fall because after the 4th wicket. So this is called the confidence interval, and within the confidence interval, we can see this type of confidence interval will be there. And the original things is that after 6 wicket, after fall down the 6 wickets, the run have been scored not much rapidly, but it is going very fast. Okay, so this type of things we can analyze from all the histogram, line plot, and all the diagrams. Now we will go to our feature selections. That means how to split the data, how to use our data set, what features we will use. This type of things will be there. Now, first of all, the dependent and independent features will be there. Some inputs feature will be there. That is our independent feature. So X will be our input feature, and some output feature will be there. You can see from this data set, based on these runs, wickets, overs, last in 5 overs, last wickets, this 7, 8, 9, and striker and non-striker. This type of this all the vary with the use of these parameters. We will just want to predict our total score. So that's why in the Python we know that the Python indexing starts from 0. So this is the 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and this is the last one, 14. So let's check. Okay, x equal to dataset dot ilog. We will use our ilog function because we will just go through all the rows and all the columns, not only the rows. So that's why ilog is important. So dataset dot ilog, all the columns. This colon means all the rows will be there, and which columns we want to use, that is 7, 8, 9, 12, and 13. And based on this function, based on these values, we will predict our dataset.ilog, that is our 14th column. And you can see dot values will be there because we want to use our values from this column. And you can see if we just want to print the value, that is print of x values are x, that means this x, and print of y values are y, that means this y will be there. And you can see the values will be 0, 0, 0, 1, this type of things, and y values also are 301, 301, this type of things. So let's check. Yes, y values are 301, 301, and 203. And you can see y values also 203, 203, and x values also this type of thing. Now we will split the dataset into training and testing purpose. So to split the dataset, we will use our module, that is our sklearn module. This is very important, very much helpful to us. That is, so that's why we have written from sklearn dot model selection. From sklearn module, we will use our model selection library and import the train test split. So we have written from sklearn dot model selection, import train test split. And we will just train, and we will just split our dataset into train, that is x train, and y trend and x test and y test. When we will just split our dataset into train and testing model, we will just test our algorithm to in the train values, and after choosing the right algorithm we will take our test values, we will predict our test values, that is how much it is accurate. So that we have written x trend comma x test comma y test equal to trend test split, and within this bracket x comma y test size will be 25%, and the 75% will be our train size, and the random state will be 0. You can also see with the use of dot shape function, that is xtrain dot shape and xtest dot shape. That means the rows and columns for training independent data, that is this is the xtrain rows, and this is also the xy train rows, and this is the xtest rows, and this is the xy test rows will be there. So we can see also, and you can see the 5 columns will be there for x values. That means our independent values. Now the last thing is that we have to feature scale our data. That means we have to normalize our data between 0 to 1. So this type of things will be there, and with the help of sklearn model dot preprocessing, that is sklearn dot preprocessing, import the standard scalar. We will define an object, that is sc equal to standard scalar of this function, and after that we will just transform our x values, that is object dot function sc dot fit transform, and within this fit transform we will just give the x train value. And similarly for x test value we can just have to transform this only, because what this is the testing purpose, so that's why we have transform, not a fit transform. Here fit transform means we will just firstly we will fit our data, then we will transform, and for testing purpose we will just only train our data set, so that only test our data set, so that's why we will just transform our data, that is our x test data. Now we will choose our algorithm, we will work with our algorithm. So first one algorithm is the linear regression, that is simple linear regression. First one, the simple, sorry, not a simple but a multiple linear regression. So we have written that sklearn.linear model. And first of all, why the multiple linear regression? Because there will be more than one parameter. There will be 5 features will be there. There will be 5 features. We know that this is a 5 features will be there. So the multiple linear regression happens. And as this is a not a as this is a continuous problem statement, so that's why we prefer the regression problem statement. So we have used our sklearn model again, that is from sklearn.linear model import linear regression. We will create our object, that is lin equal to linear regression, and after that we will just simply fit our train data, that is lin dot fit x train and y train, and after that we can predict the data with the use of object. So that's why we have written lin dot predict of x test, and you can see the y pred value will be this type of values will be there. We can also see for comparing the y test and y pred value, you can see these are our y test value, and these values are our predicted values. So you can see 80 164, this is quite far. 220 192, this is far but not quite. 256 255, this is not far. So this type of things, 321 253, this is also quite far. So this type of things happen. Now let's check what is our accuracy for this multiple linear regression. To use this, we will have to use the R square value. And we know that R square value always ranges between 0 to 1. As the value is going 10 to 1, that means the model is very much accurate. We can fit the model. Otherwise, we cannot fit the model. And you can see to predict the R score, to you calculate the R score value, you can see lin dot score. This is our object. We have already used lin dot score function, x test and y test. And based on this, we will store this into a variable, that is score. And you can see the R square value accuracy will be 52.7%. That means almost 53%. This is quite low. That means 0.5. This is quite low from 1 regarding R square value. Now, so that's why we will choose another algorithm, that is our decision tree or random forest algorithm. So for decision tree or random forest algorithm, we will just use our we will just use our scalar model again. But as we know that the random forest consists of many decision trees, that means maybe 500, maybe 600, maybe 6,000 decision trees. There will be many more algorithms will be there. So that's why the random forest is called as a ensemble learning technique. So that's why we will use our ensemble from the sklearn library. So we have written from sklearn.ensemble import random forest regression. We will again create an object that is lean random of random forest regressor, and we will just put only 100 trees will be there, 100 trees will be there for a random forest to make a random forest. And again we will just fit our object that is x train and y train, and we will simply predict our output, that is lean random dot predict x test. Let's check, this is our test value, this is all our test values we have evaluated. Let's check what is the comparison comparing. Let's comparing the y test and y pret value with the use of random forest. So y test and y pret random, you can see 80 132, this is quite far. 220 214, this is not a far. 256 253, this is almost near about this. 307 307, this type of things will be there. And the accuracy score will be, you can see, 79.55%, that is almost 80% accuracy. So this is a very much good accuracy. So we can opt the model, we can opt the model. Now we can also validate our model with the use of model selection, that is our k cross-fold model selection. And so first of all we will just predict a new score with our real life problem statement. You can see here the match is going between India and Australia, the first Paytm T20, the first Paytm match between India and Australia. So here you can see the India scored 118 for 1 after 24 overs, 24.2 overs, and they are projecting that score will be 242 after 50 overs. So if we just use our, this is our score, this is our 118, this is the number of wickets fall, that is 1, that is after, this is our over, that is 24.2, and the striker and non-striker batsman we will have collected from Google, that is 73 and 47, then they have scored that the prediction will be 297. 297 we our model predicts. So and they have predicted that 252 will be after 50 overs. So we have predicted this by our lean random, that is our lean random function, that is our lean random object, that means our random forest object. Now you can also see after 40 overs the runs is going very much slow, that is 118 for 24 overs, but you can see after 42 overs the run is quite slow, that is 201. And also one wicket have been drawn after 25 overs, up to 25 overs, and after 42 overs 5 wickets have been fall down, so the run rate have been also changed. This type of things will be there, and you can see they are projecting the score, that is 240 to 54. Okay, now we will just use our we will just use our things, that is 201, this is 201, 5 wickets have been drawn, 43.1 overs have been gone, and 25 its striker rate, striker run, and 27 will be our non-striker run. And based on these features, based on these our features, we will just predict that our score will be 278. And we know the accuracy is almost 80%, that is 79.5. So we will have to get the better accuracy, and we know that to get the better accuracy we will use our k-fold cross validation. So let's check, we will use our again that sklearn library. So we have written that from sklearn.model selection import cross val score, this is our function, this is our library, and we'll create our object, that is results equal to cross val score lean random x equal to x and y equal to 1 y, and cv equal to 10, that means cross validation will be 10, that means 10 folds will be there. in the all our data set. In all our data set, we will just 10 folds will be there. So first one fold will be for testing purpose, and rest of the 9 folds will be for training purpose. And again, the second the second block will be for our testing purpose, and rest of the block will be our for training purpose. So this type of things will be happen for CV equal to 10. And after that, we will just calculate the those np dot mean. That means we will calculate our results in the average format, that is lean equal to np dot mean results. This is our object results. And we can also score, we can also check our accuracy, that is 87%. So in the random forest we have got the accuracy, that is 80% before k-fold cross validation, and after k-fold cross validation the accuracy is quite huge, that is 87%. হ্যাঁ, হয়ে গেছে তো, হয়ে গেছে। হ্যাঁ, হয়ে গেছে। So this is the accuracy 87%, and you can see the score, predicted score will be 259. So this is our predicted score, and you can see the score after 50 overs, the score is 255, and we have just predicted that the score is 259. So this is quite huge and quite near with our prediction, and the accuracy is more than our 80%, 85% rather than. So accuracy is 87%. So we have just predicted our more accurate model, that is 259 in that match. We can also predict it, and we can also see after for 50 overs the run is 255. So this is a very good model, and we can accept our model to predict any score, to predict any score of a match. So this is the thing for machine learning algorithm, and this is how we can use our algorithm to predict the score. Okay. So I'm just going to end my session because there is another, our colleague will be there to give you the lecture. And again, thank you for giving me time. Thank you. If there will be any doubt, any query, you can just ask me anything.
Hello. So let's start with Mr. Sashi Ranjan Jha. He is a cybersecurity analyst, and we will start the cybersecurity session. It's over to you, Sashi.
Yeah, hello. So, can somebody clear me that my voice is clear or not?
Yeah,
Hello?
you're audible. Yes,
Yeah,
yes, you are
thank
audible.
you. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, let me share my screen first. Okay, hello everyone. This is Shashi Ranjan Jha, a cybersecurity analyst from Data Space Security. Today we are going to see like how a normal hack like happens, and what kind of people are there over internet, and how we can make ourselves safe, and on which kind of vendors or parties that we should believe before submitting our sensitive data to anybody. So we know internet is not safe if you believe in everything what people show. So this is a world of internet. It's a web of many people. They are connecting through each other. It's a blockchain where everybody is connected to each other and then send information based on some protocols that we follow over the internet. So there is some kind of hackers also there. The users are also there. Some corporate world peoples are also there. They are also trying to make business out of those data, and and this is how the internet is working right now. And to in order to make ourselves safe out of them, like how to trust anybody, that whether the person whom we are connecting to is a genuine person, or some kind of hacker. So in that way we have to think about this. So this is a quite a chart before starting anything, like what kind of cyber crimes in the states of like in India, how it is being rising since from 2011 to 2014. And there are many times that people are not getting arrested because of the anonymity they follow, and because of the restrictions between the state governments, or maybe there are if we want to go for the reverse engineering, and in order to find the actual attack and the actual like attacker, it is being very different way to find those things. And there we have to deal a lot of other like circumstances in between. So there are many kind of cyber crimes that take place, but it is very hard to like uh, get to those people. That's why I said it is very like internet is not safe, but we have to figure out how we can make ourselves safe over internet. So there are many kind of attacks that happens, and on the top of that there is OWASP top 10, which we called open web application security. So there there they have shared the top 10 vulnerabilities of which we will go after that, after these slides. But here we see that there are different kind of attacks that happens on over the internet. One of the famous thing is malware. So malware is any software that is malicious. So any software that is malicious, that is designed to damage or control a computer system, is a malware. Phishing is a similar kind of thing, which is a kind of malware, but it contains it is being sent to the victims through emails, or through fake websites, or uh, and the messages, and anything through a link that you get, that could be a phishing page. So before clicking on those links, people should always verify where these links are coming from, and where it is being redirecting or anything else. And if you are suspicious about the things, always always check for the phishing link or through different OSINT websites, which will go later in this session. So there are other methods also, man in the middle attacks, which is very famous. Like hackers insert themselves between your computer and the web server. So this could be achieved through like some Wi-Fi adapters that are being so whenever we are connected to our home Wi-Fi, there are possibilities that if there is some hacker around you, and if they can see your home network Wi-Fi. So without being like connected to your home network, it is possible to capture all the packets in air. And then it is also possible to de-authenticate the users that are connected to that router or that network. And then whenever there is an automatic connection goes from your device to that router, there is a handshake happens between your device and the router, and that handshake contains the key. That key is responsible for like connecting you to the router, and that is a kind of password, and it is in the hash format. So if that all those packets can be like captured through wireless device, and that can be used in later in future decrypt the password or to crack the password of the router. And after it is being cracked, all the interactions and packets that are being communicated through that router and your device like can be decrypted. All those packets can be decrypted. So these are some other things. It is distributed denial of service attack. A network of computers overload a server with data, shutting it down. This happens with like in corporate environment, where hackers want to wants to uh, disable the services for the users for a certain time. So they just overload the server with their own request, or in that order, if server is designed to protect the services through the IP addresses that are trying to connect to the server. So there could be a kind of blacklisting and whitelisting things, that a certain IP can access the services for a certain time, or for certain number of times. But in distributed denial of service, hackers uses some kind of bots or some automated tools, where a different kind of devices which are being like compromised earlier are being attached with those bot, and the requests are looked for the web servers that it is coming from the genuine users from all over the world. And it is very hard to for the web servers to detect whether this is coming from the original attacker or from the like original users. So in that way, this kind of attacks happens. Similarly, cross-site scripting, like web browsers are right now working with JavaScript and other kind of programming languages from in the front side as well as in the back end. Injecting malicious code into websites which target the visitor's browser. So injecting some kind of code that is like that changes the view of the web page, or that can do something with your web browser, because your web browser is similarly like coded with the same language like JavaScript. And if the developer of the web server is not sanitizing the user input that users are giving to the website, then these kind of attacks take places. And these cross-site scripting and SQL injection attacks, these are quite severe kind of attacks, because these attacks can give you a remote access to the web server, and it can completely compromise the targeted system. So SQL injection is at the top of the OWASP top 10, and we will see why SQL injection is at the top, because you can see SQL injection attack like at many places in many websites, and this is the attack which is very easy to like carry out if you get the logic behind the development. So let's see other things. So we come together to protect this business. Yep. So securing business getting attacked by multiple vectors in order to exploit either its users or the corporate itself by taking down its services to the user. Like as in the DDoS attack, we were doing, we can drop down the services by the corporates. Other things, that users data saved in corporate database contain very sensitive data like usernames, passwords, date of birth, location, and personally identifiable information data. So these data that we during registration in on any website, or whenever we give credit card details and everything, so sometimes company also stored those data in their databases in order to make their website more fast and more interactable with the users. So they need to store this data in onto their place. And if those companies are not maintaining their website in proper way, and if security postures are not being maintained in on those environment, then this is completely the user's loss, because those data can be used by hackers in order to gain access to other services. Like I don't think many people change their usernames and passwords regularly and for every different accounts. So for many accounts, people use same usernames or same passwords, and and these data can be used sometimes to recover passwords as well. So this is some sensitive data that corporates store with themselves, and it should not get into the hands of hackers. So this is a similar thing for the DDoS attack that hackers do. Taking down services from the users is a common way. Hackers having interest to take benefit of the business because of the security vulnerabilities that are present and the technologies that are used in running businesses. So there is a way. So, whenever the hacker finds some kind of technology that is vulnerable to some vulnerable to some kind of exploit, or there is having some kind of vulnerability into them, they just go for some databases and find the related services or the related websites. Those are using the same technologies, and out of that they find their target and then attack them. So this is a security top 10 vulnerabilities that comes like on very side. But here we are seeing that cross-site scripting at the top of this, like most of the time we find, but it is very hard to sometimes to find cross-site scripting. Like it is very hard to find any kind of exploits over the internet, like when we do bug bounting or anything. You have to give time in order to find this, because all these vulnerabilities are maybe present on a website, but these are all being maintained and being hidden by the developers in such a way that to finding and exploiting these vulnerabilities is quite a tough task. But we can see that these are some percentage, like likelihood of a website having a vulnerability by class. Cross-site scripting at the top, because all the website that accepts user data in some order, like whenever user gives comment, or even when user searches for something on a website. So all those data, if they are not being sanitized in a proper way, then there is a possibility of cross-site scripting on that website. Information disclosure, information leakage, whenever the website is being made, they may have some technology that are being used through GitHub, or so in GitHub repositories there may be some API keys or some password or some tokens are also being stored on those GitHub repository, which make which make this very serious thing, because informations, those tokens can be used directly onto those websites or which are using those technology in order to gain access. Similar thing, there are some other like attacks also, which we will go when we will go for OWASP top 10. So risk to business depend on the assets it holds. So all the things, all the risk that is associated with some kind of business is depend upon the assets that it holds. It simply means that whatever the services that the service that the website is providing, it depends upon the attacker, that whether they want to exploit those services, how much advantage they can take out of those website, and what could be the impact of the businesses out of it. So security like security analyst or security postures that are being maintained over those websites may control different kind of weaknesses. Like here we see there is some kind of weakness, we have some control over it. There is another kind of weakness, we do not have control over it, but it is related to some kind of assets that we are trying to control. So there might be a situation that there is some kind of attack vector that we during the penetration testing or during the testing of the website, we may lose, like we do not know about those attack vectors. And if as a point of a security analyst or a security researcher, you have to look forward for all the possible ways in which attack can happen. But for an attacker, it is only one single point of entry that they need in order to gain a full access over the website or over the system. So it is very tough task to figure out all the possible ways. So in that order, what security researchers can do, if there is no asset, or if there is no business impact that is being happened because of some kind of weakness in the security of the website, we can just put some kind of honeypot, or put some kind of intrusion detection system over there, so we can figure out, yes, there is some kind of intrusion that has happened. But if if there is some asset involved with some kind of vulnerability or some kind of weakness in the website, then we must have to protect it by all the sources that could happen. uh, According to that, there are different kind of business impacts that could happen, and we will see this in next slides. So information gathering is the key. So how these attacks like being pull off. So to pull off this kind of attacks, like hackers have the first way, the first hold of this is the information. So the first thing, the target which are holding high assets but low risk are involved. So they target those targets that are having high assets but low risk are involved. So they might go for different kind of tools, those that shows them whether these website is using some kind of firewall or not. So if they are using some kind of firewall and there is some kind of monitoring system over there, then hackers may choose different way to attack those systems, like uh, completely anonymizing their traffic and using VPNs from those country where the interaction is being allowed for the admin users. So these are the different kind of things that are needed to gather before attacking any target. So information gathering is the thing. So they select targets based on high assets but low risk, and then hackers search for latest common vulnerabilities that are present in Google hacking database or other open databases. So there are different hacking databases maintained by the hackers community or security community in order to check the latest common vulnerabilities right now in market. And then according to that, they select to after getting the available doc, they give some kind of Google Docs, which directly by typing on Google, you will get the targets that are like affected with those technologies that are vulnerable to the services. Then running automatic scripts to check multiple targets response for passive recon of the target and check for firewalls. So automatic scripts are being used, and tools are being used to check multiple targets in a single time, and then with passive recon thing, like what are the getting parameters over there using param spider. So it is a way, like whenever we want to do attacks like SQL injection or accesses, so we need some kind of parameter where we can inject our payloads. So for all those things, scripts are being used, and to check the response, whether the web page is responding for 200 okay, or is there any kind of 403 restriction over the link that we are giving. So all these things have been done. Sorting and selection of the targets depend upon the asset organization holds and the security implementation put in place. So this is the normal thing that we discussed. Okay, so this is the phase of intrusion kill chain. So how intrusion happens and what is the complete way of doing this. So reconnaissance, research, identification, and selection of target. The first thing that we see in previous slide. Then weaponization. So pairing remote access malware with exploit into deliverable payload. So we can give payload directly through the URL or through some kind of PDF or through some kind of images or other files. We just write our malware and put it on the PDF or through a like vector, through which we can send those like payloads to the website or the web server. So this is what weaponization means. Then delivery, transmission of weapon to target via email attachment, websites, or USB drivers. So then exploitation comes into action. Once delivered, the weapons code is triggered, exploiting vulnerable application or system. So once it is being delivered and being clicked by the user, or if there is no need of user interaction, then it will automatically, like the code will get triggered and it will start doing whatever it is being programmed for. Then the installation part begins. The weapon installs a backdoor on the target system, allowing a persistent access. So a backdoor is something that allows the attackers to get access to the victim's computer or the victim system without even being noticed. and it is in persistent in nature. So whenever you restart your service or you restart your computer, it will automatically get connected to the attacker system, because it will the code or the malware that we fit into the payload, it is being coded in such a way that it will, every time whenever the system will get restart, it will automatically give connection back to the attackers. Then the command and control. So there are bots and there are other tools that are available, where on a single platform all the targets that are being compromised can be seen and be and the hacker can control all those devices, and whatever information they need from those devices that can get out of it. And then action on objective. So other things like removing clearing your tracks and like whatever data that has been that has to be get downloaded, uh, or some kind of ransomware that has to be installed. So all these things can be done as an action of objectives. So these are some databases for hackers or security professional, that those that use. So package strong security, securityreasons.com, securityfocus.com, CVA metric. So this is some kind of hackers database that we see. So exploit title Philip Technologies. First, before showing this, do not try this. Like if you want to try to do some kind of testing for any kind of vulnerability that I am going to show over here. So you can do those things on a lab platform, on a simulated platform, but do not try to do these things over directly to this, because it is illegal. So this is some kind of database that hackers maintain. So search for Google Doc, designed and maintained by Philip Technologies. So uh, if there is some database and there is some release that has been like here we can see that this release has been done on 2nd of September 2021. So it is the latest release, and it says that any application data is designed and maintained by Philip Technologies is being vulnerable to the SQL injection. So we can check this. We will check this definitely. Similarly, there are some other dogs that I have found from internet. So this is so the technologies that are developed by Digital India and something. So these are also being like vulnerable to SQL injection attacks. So I have also collected this, and there is some IDOR attacks. We will see this in later time. So let me show you some demo out of it. Let me boot up my Kali machine over here. Okay, so yeah, for the demonstration purpose, if somebody wants to see or try these things, so they just search for hack me. Sorry, they can just go for hackme.com, and there they can search for like the you do not have to install some kind of application over here. You can just go and search for the vulnerable websites. Like here, DVWA dam web application is the application where you can try for different kind of vulnerabilities. I've already opened one sandbox environment of DVWA over here. So here we see different kind of attacks that are being listed over here. Just give you a simple overview of SQL injection, like how it looks. So it wants some kind of user ID or user input, and if there is no user sanitization, if we can go and see the view source code over here. So here we see that it just take the ID and then get ID, select first name, last name from user, and just give the ID as it is. There is no kind of sanitization work is going behind the scenes. So we know that yes, there is no like security mechanism for this. So what we can do, we can directly exploit this. To check for SQL injection, we just give a semicolon and just give a submit. As soon as this error comes up, we know that there is a SQL injection possibility over the things. So to exploit this service, we just go for the first thing. Like there are different kind of things like blind SQL and other things, but here we can just search for okay, so or one equal to one, and hash is used for commenting out the other things that comes after the id parameter. So after just submitting this, it gives us the id, first name, surname of all the users over here. So for first time, if we just give id equal to 1, we see the first name, last name. For id equal to 2, we see these things. But when we just give 1 equal to 1, it gives like when 1 is equal to 1 is true. So if this is true in every condition, so it will give all the users that are being listed over here. So in the similar way, there are different commands that we can use, but there are automatic tools as well, and we are going to see what automatic tools we can use. So there is an automatic tool which is SQL map, and doing it dash h will give us all the commands that we need in order to use a SQL map. So we will use SQL map, but we will use this on a real website, not on this hackme website. Like I want to show you, like these websites are actually being present over like over the internet for a long time. So how we can check for this? So just like just search for SQL injection, SQL injection docs, and you will see different kind of Google Docs or GitHub repositories over here. So Google Docs for SQL injection txt. Just going over there, you see there are some text over here. So just copy any one of this, because all of this containing some ID equal to thing, cat equal to thing, page equal to thing. So all these things will carry some kind of these are parameters. This will carry some kind of value which will be provided by the user or by the systems at themselves. So wherever these things are present over the URL, you will find some kind of, you can find some kind of SQL vulnerability over there. So just by typing this, we see there are many websites that are having at the end of the thing ID is equal to 7, ID is equal to 34. Similarly, there are many websites that comes into the picture. So just by clicking any of the website, let's just check this, the top one, and see this one as well. Okay, so here. So for SQL injection, it needs that the parameter that we are selecting is is dynamic in nature. So as we know, as let's just give a 34. It is in reimaging Bengal. Okay, there is something. Let's just click 35. Okay, so this is dynamic. As soon as we change this parameter, the things are being like changed. To check for SQL vulnerability, just giving a semicolon will, if it gives an error. So here it gives an error as SQL syntax. So we know that yes, this is like this is vulnerable to SQL injection. Okay, so the work is just copy all this and going over the SQL map, and let me just switch for sudo and SQL map. We will use dash u as for the, this is the flag that from here I am using. So dash u for the URL that we want to give. So let me just paste the URL. The URL should contain the ID, up to the ID and from where we are giving the commands. So just this, and then some flags. So I use random agent flags, so it will not make us like it will change the agent for every single request, other request. And we can also select level and risk according to the situation. If there is uh, like I can see error based I can see, sorry, I can see the error based thing over here. Like it is error based SQL injection. Like as soon as we give something, it gives an error. There are times that you will not get this error. Like if I can show you, um, okay, in later examples, I will show you on the website that will not give any error. Like in this, if I search for, okay, let me search for this. Designed and maintained by Philip Technologies. So let me go for a doc over this. Designed and so for docking, just use DSI. So we see, okay, there are less number of. Let me select the any other. This Live It India. So the doc for this is developed by Digital India, and whenever as okay, I have to give it here. So this is the crafted one. Like after ID, I have crafted this Union Select version 1 and all in order to get this error. But like if I just give semicolon over here, let me check whether it will give some kind of error or not. So here you do not see any kind of error. So sometimes you will see the check this and will say that yes, SQL vulnerability is not there. But as soon as we go for the previous one, we see that it is giving me the version of the SQL or MySQL version over here. So in those conditions also, we just need to like SQL map comes very handy over here. Just copy this and okay, I was using this, but let me use the new one because it is having a more detailed one. So http-u and then some random agent, and what we want to fetch out of it. So we just want table names. I just want table names. So let me just check for uh, okay, dbms data cookie. From here we can select a label and set label equal to 3 and then risk also equal to 3 and then I just want to see table. I think table is there or table size there. Tables. Yes. So here we see tables. So that's what I just want to see whether it is having tables or not. So we see it asks for whether they can use some cookies. So I just give say yes. Can use cookies. It is checking for some WAF, and there is no web application. I guess has been found, and the target URL is not stable. Okay, so do you want to continue? Yes, I want to continue. It says that ID might not be injectable, but after getting some like let me just let it be running, and I will show you some other uh, OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities that are meanwhile over here. So in the OWASP top 10, uh, we see some vulnerabilities like if I go down. So injection is there. Right now we are going through injection. Then broken authentication. Broken authentication is you get some kind of authentication tokens like the password mechanism is there, and we are not using it in a proper way. And okay, let me just view. Okay. So broken authentication is when we got some username password, and without using the username password, we just get an access to the system or to the services. Then the authentication process has been broken. So this is broken authentication. Sensitive data exposure, as we know, there are some data that has been stored over the web server in different file systems or other things, and getting access to those data things is something very very sensitive thing, is very like could result into some kind of risk for the corporates. So this is also in very dangerous. And then XML external entity. So XML is a language that is being used in order to transfer data, or just like JSON format and other formats, XML is also a language. And and because of it, if there is some external entities, so in XML, we can, if a hacker can design their own entities. So XML is based upon entities are designed in order to fetch data or store data into web servers. So if attacker can design entities based on like customly design their own entities, then they can also inject this is also there. Broken access control. So broken access control is there are on website, there are some people who are having subscription, and there are some users who are not having subscription. There are some person who are having admin privileges over there. So different kind of access controls are being implemented over there, and breaking those kind of access controls and getting access to the like privileged user is something comes under broken access control. Then security misconfigurations. So there are different kind of security instances that are made in places, and like bypassing those, doing some kind of misconfiguration with it results into complete compromise of the system. So that is also there. Cross-site scripting we already see. Insecure deserialization is like sending data into some kind of deserialized form, like changing the format of the data, or the changing the format of the exploit, and masquerading it with some kind of doing URL encoding with it, and changing it into base 64, so that the web applications could not verify it, whether it is genuine or coming from the user, or from the system, or from some attacker. So this comes into insecure deserializations. Using components with known vulnerabilities, as we see the technologies that are vulnerable to certain kind of exploits, if any corporate is using those technologies, so they may be suspect as the vulnerable to A9 kind of using components with known vulnerabilities kind of attacks. Insufficient logging and monitoring. So logging and monitoring is very important, but if some application is logging sensitive information, but in not in encrypted format, and not passwords are not being stored with salt values, so these are something that may arise problem for the corporates in later time. So for the next thing, let me check whether the automation things has been completed. Okay, so says that it checks for the database as MySQL. Do you want to skip test payload for other DBMS? Yes, I want to skip the test for other payloads, and extending, yes, just so it is now checking for error based. Uh, so if we want to see what is going on, we can change the verbosity. So just see, change verbosity to let me go for 6, and we can see what are the complete requests that is going over there. So id is equal to and select, and all these parameter is being going. So all these things has been done automatically, and in the backend. So let me change the verbosity again to 1. Okay, so change to 1, and it is now okay. So it takes time, but it will gives it as we see that this like my payload gives us the version of the web server, so it will work very fine. Like this is the version that should not be like displayed in such a way, but using the right payload we can get that version thing. So -2 union select for word version, and the other thing commenting out the rest, it gives us the version. Similarly, all the tables and all the uh, data inside the tables can also be visible using those using MySQL automatic script. So yeah, right, it get completed, and these are the tables. So blog, board, course, downloads, and all these things. So if we want to see check for any data within this, we just need to like remove tables and then use columns and then other processes. So I'm not going deep into this because this is not something I want to show, but this is a complete overview how you can perform a SQL injection over there. And there is a lot of SQL injection vulnerabilities that we can find over internet regularly. Now let me show you some other kind of vulnerabilities that also like present on browsers. So these are called uh, IDOR vulnerabilities. So what basically IDOR is, you can change the things in IDOR and make it like you can customize the things and then order things based on this that. So using that this website, I want to show how this IDOR is working, and how critical this vulnerability could be. So for doing this, let me buy some flowers over here. So you can see there are some flowers. So let me just add some flowers to cart. Okay. Uh, I just added this to cart, and let me add some more, at least one or two more. Add this to cart. And let me intercept the request that is going on from here to whenever, like proceed to checkout is there. Okay, so price is there. Let me just refresh it once again, so we can see the product ID and the category ID over here. Let me check whether send is to repeater and what is the response of this. Okay, so there is a whole bunch of things going on. Let me forward this again. Uh, okay, let me proceed to checkout once, and it is giving me send this to repeater again. Mhm. Let me check other requests. Okay, I need to register on this website. I don't want to register because there are some firewalls running behind this, and if something finds suspicious over there, so it will be very difficult for me. But I just want to show you how we can change the things. So let me just add it once again. Add this to cart. Yeah, so this product cost. So this post request is going to add to cart thing, and where we are seeing this product ID and product cost. So it is very bad practice to add these things over here, because user can change this to any value. Like if I change this to 4 and just send this, forward this data over here, and forward this again, and just go down. Okay, total 8. Yeah, so here you can see I am ordering two, uh, like this plant, which cost me around, for the single plant it is 400, but as I did the IDOR one, like it was infected with the IDOR vulnerability. The cost that is showing me is just rupees 8, because I changed the price to 4 rupees, not the 400. So it cost me 8 rupees right now, and the total is like this one. I didn't change anything over here, so for the one plant it is costing me the same, but it is adding this 8 rupees for those two plants, which should cost 800, but it is costing me 8 only. And I can just simply go and check out for proceed thing, and proceed with these things, and just register and order the product. If there is no backend that is working behind this, and if this process get executed, then I definitely get, uh, I can order this at this price. So hackers, for not getting caught with this, they can manipulate the price accordingly and then order the thing. So these kind of vulnerabilities are very much available on Indian websites right now, most on the Indian websites, but you can find it everywhere. SQL injection at the top, you can find it everywhere. Other vulnerabilities, it is hard to find, but yes, it exists. Uh, like it exists at many places. So this is what I want to show, and according to this, what we can do to make it secure. So security measures that we should take is the physically protected information system, and control access by all users, control disclosure and disposal of information, and train all staff regularly. So we have to follow certain steps in order to secure our environment or corporate. So first, physically protect information system means implementing firewalls and other monitoring systems over the network. Then control access by all users that are visiting your website, or all users that are using your services, that they should have controlled access, and there should be an admin who should control all these accesses. Control disclosure and disposal of information. Any information that we put on that is publicly available should be like properly seeing whether this is something sensitive, and should be like open to public or not. If there is some information that should not be open for public, then there should be some control access over those resources as well. Train your all staff regularly, just not to click on any suspicious link on phishing links, how these phishing emails and scams are happening. So train all the staffs is also important. Risk assessment is what is required in order to check the technologies with which we are using, and we like some technologies we cannot change, because of it is being used for many times, and even if it is vulnerable, we like companies cannot afford to change those technologies, because it could cost time and money as well. So in that thing, we have to estimate what is the risk involved with those technologies. Like if we are using some kind of web server, and it is vulnerable to some kind of vulnerability, and the complete company is running over those website, there is a huge risk involved with this. So in that thing, we have to change the update the web server version or other thing. But if there is something that needs not to be updated, and we cannot update that thing, but the risk or the asset that is under those technology is not much needed to be protected. So we can just implement some IDS or monitoring system over there, or some honeypot over there, and just do all the assessment over the risk related to those assets. Then impact assessment. So what is the impact if some asset get affected, or if the risk that we have calculated is actually being taken out by the hackers, or actual attack has happened. So what kind of impact that security breach will take. So these things can be also should also be like assessed. Then IT security system baseline. So there is a, baseline, or there is a basic overview of how all the security or system within the environment should be and should work. So these baselines should be maintained before doing any kind of risk assessment. Then impact analysis. So it is similar to risk impact analysis. And the system security and network segmentation. So network segmentation is just like dividing all the like dividing your admin network, your like HR network different, and then other systems that are using web servers. Those are on a different DMZ zone, where no other unauthorized access should be happen. So all those things comes into network segmentation. Then network security and firewall configuration is defending those all the devices within the network through some kind of monitoring system. Then there is a due care and due diligence. So we have talked about all the assessments, all the things that we should take care before starting any in order to secure our infrastructure. So in due care and due diligence, we identify information risks to high priority goals, objectives, processes, or assets, implementing controls, countermeasures, or strategies to limit their possible impacts, and operating those controls and systems themselves in prudent and responsible ways. Here, the information risks were obviously not identified. So, in due care, we only select the risk related to the assets, and what are the objective of the companies, and or how can we how can how can we mitigate the risk that is involved with the assets, or that is involved with the current situation of the security baseline that we have structured. So due care is just making an outline out of it and implementing those things. And due diligence is ongoing monitoring of these controls, as well as periodic verification as they still work correctly and that new vulnerabilities or threats. So due diligence is continuous in nature. Like you have to do continuous monitoring over the controls that we have specified here, and we have to do a complete verification and do a complete audit timely. And if there is any new vulnerabilities or threats that are coming into market, then we have to be ready for that. And similar steps has to be included in the IT security system baseline things. So changes in business needs or changes in underlying system have not broken some of these risks. So if there will be any change in the corporate environment, it should not change the things for the security purposes, that way the controls that we have maintained for the security. So the changes should not impact those security practices. So we have to also take care of this into due diligence requirements. Okay, so what are the risk assessments that we get and what are the impacts of it? So into intellectual property data, so anybody's data that a website is storing, so the impact is lawsuits. Anybody, if that is being compromised, so you have to face the lawsuit. Similarly, personally identifying information. So this impacts in reputation and loss and lawsuits. Similarly, risk management information impact is security risk in general and information security risk. Company financial data, price and cost information impact is reputational loss and lawsuits. Client data impact is reputational loss and lawsuits. Detail about international business processes. Impact security risk, sharing of know-how with competition and etc. So the last thing is how all the things has to be managed. So first we describe the IT security baseline, then we do automatic vulnerability scanning, and if there will be any result of the vulnerability scanning, according to that we will do a vulnerability assessment using the payload and what kind like how much deep we can get into those website, or how much privileges that we can access through that vulnerability that is present over the website. And then we go for the mitigation planning, like how we can mitigate those risks. And then again we have to make IT security baseline, and according to the vulnerability that we have got, we have to add those like mitigation techniques and mitigation security practices into the security baseline, and then do the process again. So this is a complete cyclic process and continuous process in order to monitor all the security logs or anything that is happening through our corporate environment. So this is a complete overview of cybersecurity recent challenges. If you guys are having any kind of questions, you can ask. I can take questions for a few minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sashi. It was a
Yeah.
very interactive session with a good presentation, and hope you have enjoyed throughout the two domains that we have discussed today: machine learning and cybersecurity. So, Data Space Security Private Limited is coming up with internships in cybersecurity and machine learning for a month long with live projects. So already I have discussed with Sharda ma'am actually. So you can get all the details from her. And with projects, we are only keeping it with 750 per head. Uh, and without projects, it's only 500 rupees per head. Okay, and the details, if you want the modules and everything, we can share it with you. If you are interested, you can let us know. Okay. Yeah. So if you have any queries, you can write in the chat box and then we'll end the session. I have shared the feedback form to you in the chat box. Please fill up that feedback form. It is very like essential to fill the feedback form. Okay. So if any of you, if you have some queries, you can write, or else we'll end the session today.
Else, any queries, Amma? Hello? No queries, Amma, regarding your internship domains or any other doubts you can ask now? Yes. No doubts, girls?
Okay, ma'am, then actually, so
Yeah,
you can share the feedback form, ma'am, with all.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
I've already
Okay.
shared, and
Okay.
we will be getting, I think, the feedback.
Sure. Sure. Okay. We will
Yeah,
check. Yeah. So
yeah.
today we are ending the session, ma'am.
Yes, yes, you can end the session because they are not putting any queries, no?
Yeah.
Can
Okay.
end
Okay.
up the session, and we will share whatever responses they are we are
Sure.
getting through the feedback, as well as whatever details they need, I will also share in the classes.
Okay. Okay. Thanks a lot. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you. Yeah.